Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 7th of March, comes to you from London. And another crazy week on markets as the Russian-Ukraine crisis continues. This is a chart of TTF, Dutch gas in rubles, and I've done that just by multiplying the euro ruble rate by Dutch gas to give us that. And what it shows is that Putin is actually getting about 30 times more money than he was a year ago in local currency from his gas exports, and obviously Europe being the big one. So it's a really big issue that we're just seeing as these gas prices go up and up. It's effectively giving Russia more and more cash. So we are almost certainly going to start to see some sanctions on oil and gas from Russia, and that, of course, is going to drive prices higher. And the chart targets are really the key to that. We talked about, from the middle of January, we've been talking about $150 from crude oil. It was at $87 then. At the time, that seemed ridiculous, but now, of course, we've touched 140 this morning with a spike high. So 150 is now looking very, very doable, unfortunately. So let's just look at what's happening in the markets globally. And we're seeing lots of big moves in lots of big directions. So dollar continues to be the safe haven. And we said towards the end of last year, we kept saying that 2022 would be the year of the dollar. And there it is. Euro sinking lower. We put a report out to clients last week. You don't really need the reports. You've got the targets here. This is the weekly, daily, and 60-minute, of course, long-term, medium-term, and short-term. Below the cloud is bearish. We're bearish on all time frames, and we've got these big downside targets. The euro will fall through parity pretty soon. So that's what we're seeing from the targets. We've got this target of 95, and then even worse. So a collapse in the euro this year is likely, I'm afraid. Looking at the sterling chart, we are falling here, obviously not as much as the euro. And in fact, when we look at the euro sterling chart, sterling is making 6-year highs against the euro. So that's very strong indeed. Looking at Bitcoin, we're sitting back below the $40,000 level at $38,000. Just really struggling on this cloud level here. The US stock market was down on Friday, and the woes will continue today, I'm afraid. We will open lower, and if we look at that, we've got downside targets, and of course this longer term downside targets being met. The VIX volatility is well and truly in the 30s. That's bad for markets, so we are seeing an effect there. The FTSE future down over 2% this morning. The DAX in Germany down over 4%. Germany in real dire straits, and we are just seeing those markets plummeting. We've got a further downside of 3% on the short term, and we've passed the downside target here on the 1% chart, so that is bearish confirmation, of course. And with US markets a lot further to fall, it won't be much for European markets to go much lower still as well. Looking at Japan, we're down 2.7% overnight, activating a new downside target here, 14% lower. And looking at the Hang Seng, we're off nearly 4%. We've been bearish for well over a year on the Hang Seng, pushing to these downside targets. Downside target met, that's bearish confirmation. China seeing a 2% fall in stocks, so it's not insulated either. So interestingly there, and India down 2.5%. So we're seeing across the board these markets tumbling. The Aussie market relatively resilient, still really the only Western market that hasn't activated its downside target. And Oz, of course, is heavily resource laden. And so, in fact, my Aussie shares were up overnight despite the falls in the markets because they're in things like gold, lithium, nickel. So we are seeing those resources really rising. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute, but coffee is up 0.5%. That trend is continuing. Sugar is up 2%. Hasn't been really one of the commodities going crazy, but is now starting to move. Wheat prices, of course, have gone up 40% in a week. So that's really a big push there. We are pulling back slightly from that. A lot of volatility and corn up. The big one is gold. Get ready for a headline. Gold breaks $2,000. That's going to happen. We've got targets to 2,400. We've talked about those targets. Those are activated. Precious metals are really starting to run. Silver up 0.8%. Platinum up 2.3%. And palladium up 13%. Russia accounts for a third of palladium supply in the world, and so of course we are seeing a real squeeze here, and we're pushing higher there as well. So upside targets all pushing higher. Copper making multi-year highs as well. You have to go back quite some time to see when copper was. In fact, it's an all-time high. So copper, one of the most utilized metals in the world. We've got upside targets there. They're all on your charts. Just keep watching those. US 10-year yields sitting steady at about 1.75%. The big thing today will be to watch Apple. Will it activate this downside target? Seems inevitable that it will. That's a 24% fall in Apple share price. So really significant there. Looking at the energy mix, well, Brent crude, we talked about that. It's going higher. Looking at coal, we're seeing coal up 6% this morning. A lot of volatility here. It doubled in price last week, and we did send a report out to clients. Gas prices this morning opened 70%. They were up 70% at one stage. We are now just up a mere 33%. But of course, really seeing extreme volatility here. And the market really starting to factor in a ban on Russian oil and gas. And that, of course, will send prices much higher, and we have given the targets to clients on that. Power markets also looking strong this morning. German power up 5%, breaking out of this triangle pattern, so that's looking stronger. And if we look at Nordic power, also higher, up 5%, pushing higher here as well. So all in all, we are seeing a lot. Keep an eye on your reports if in Updata. All sources are, you can see all the reports that are there depending on your subscription level. But for example, here we give the report on the euro, on coal, on gas. They're all there. So just take a look at those reports in your updated news. And of course, charts today also appears in this news source. So as soon as I've recorded this, it will pop into your news. So it's a good way of keeping everything together. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, hang in there. Happy charting. See you then.